All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating and for some, pretty provocative idea from prophetic teaching. It's called the divine wealth transfer. So, what exactly is it? And why do some people believe it's not just coming, but it's happening right now?
So let's start with what's happening in the world. According to our source material, all the instability we're seeing, economies on shaky ground, systems that seem to be falling apart, this isn't just a bunch of random bad news, it's being described as a prophetic shaking. It's this moment where the whole world is just groaning, looking for some kind of direction.
And that leads us to the core idea here. What if? What if all this chaos isn't an accident at all? The argument from the source is that what we see as a global crisis is actually a deliberate, divinely orchestrated preparation for something huge, a divine setup. So this whole idea of a divine setup is really the frame for everything. It's saying that current events are a holy preparation, kind of a run-up to a major spiritual and financial event.
Okay, so what is this event? It's called the divine wealth transfer, and the source defines it as a supernatural shift of wealth. The basic idea is that money and resources tied up in what are seen as corrupt or greedy systems will be divinely moved right into the hands of people called faithful stewards. And this is key. The goal isn't to make them rich. It's all about funding a very specific divine mission.
And that mission, that's the absolute key to understanding this whole thing. This is not about getting a bigger house or a nicer car. It's about what the money is for. The why behind this whole transfer is, it's everything. To really hammer this point home, the source lays out two totally different ways of thinking. First, there's the consumer mindset. This is where you see money as a license for your own comfort, for indulgence. But then there's the steward mindset, which is presented as the one that matters here. This mindset sees wealth as an assignment from heaven, a tool to make an impact and build something way bigger than yourself. So what is this divine assignment exactly? The source gets really specific here. We're talking about things like funding missions around the world, taking care of the poor, building centers for discipleship, and, this is interesting, reclaiming influence in major cultural areas like the arts, media, and education. These are all areas the source says have been kind of lost or neglected.
Okay, so this naturally brings up a huge question, right? If this wealth transfer is real, who actually gets it? And the answer isn't whoever wants it the most. It's about who has been prepared for it, prepared through something the source calls the test of obedience.
And this preparation, it's a whole process, a journey of character building. It starts in what are called hidden seasons, being obedient when nobody's watching. Then it moves to proving you can be faithful with small things before you can be trusted with big things. After that, it's about purifying your desires, making sure you're seeking the giver more than the gift itself. And the final stage, it's all about aligning your heart, so your identity is rooted in Christ, not in what you own.
And listen, the standard here is absolute. The source is totally uncompromising on this point. It says that partial obedience or delayed obedience is basically the same as disobedience. The expectation is radical, immediate alignment with whatever you're told to do, even if it makes zero logical sense.
Okay, so let's say someone passes this intense character test. How does the money actually show up? Well, according to the source, you think forget about conventional methods.
And this is a crucial point. Forget the stock market. Forget business trends and economic forecasts. The claim is that this whole thing will happen completely outside of our normal financial systems. It's described as a supernatural supply, one that isn't tied down by human rules or limitations.
To get a picture of this, the text points to some biblical examples of this kind of, let's call it unconventional supply. Think about it. Noah building a giant ark when there wasn't a cloud on the sky, Isaac planting and getting a 100-fold harvest in the middle of a famine, or the disciples finding the exact coin they needed for taxes inside a fish's mouth. These stories are held up as the model for how this is supposed to work, supernaturally and in ways you'd never expect.
So, let's put all the pieces together. How does this all connect? Well, the source presents this as the final divine setup. It's where that personal test of character connects directly to the launch of a massive global mission.
And the timing is seen as incredibly strategic. This whole transfer of resources is supposed to happen exactly when the world is shaking the most, when people are desperate for answers. And in that moment, the church, now with all these new resources, is positioned to step in and offer real solutions, real hope, real stability.
But before that happens, there's one last test. And it's probably not what you're imagining. The source says it's quiet. It's subtle. There are no flashing lights or big announcements. It might just look like an ordinary opportunity that feels a little risky. Or maybe an inconvenient instruction to give something away. Or even a command that just completely defies logic.
And this final quiet test, it's designed to reveal everything. It shows what's really on the throne of your heart. It checks if you can hear a whispered strategy from God. It tests if you trust enough to act with generosity instead of fear. And this one is huge. It reveals how you respond when you see someone else get blessed. It's basically the final filter to see if you can be trusted to steward not just money, but real influence and authority.
So we're going to end this explainer right where the source material does, with a really direct, really provocative question that kind of sums it all up. In the face of this prophesied global shift, the question is put to the reader, and now to you. It asks you to think about your own readiness, your own heart's alignment. When the shift comes, will you be found faithful? Thanks for joining us.